Welcome to the Elevate Your Life podcast. My name is Ryan. We're here to help you lead your life to live your best life. And today we're diving into the topic, one of my favorite topics actually, when it comes to leadership, and that's the topic of influence. And I believe that every single one of us actually has a great magnitude of influence in our life. And it comes down to, do we recognize the type of influence and the amount of influence that we actually have? Because I really believe deep down inside that if we realized how much of influence we have over other people, in other people's lives, whether we're just leading our family or leading a team, organization, whatever capacity of leadership that you find yourself in right now, the amount of influence you have is so great that it could actually be scary if you thought about it and realized it to its full capacity. And diving in this today, I want to uncover the myths about leadership, the myths about influence, and really just tie down and let go of those things that really hinder us and hold us back from becoming the leader that we can and leading the life that we want to lead. And really when it comes down to whether you want to be a better parent, a better coworker, a better boss, whatever capacity of work you find yourself in, it comes down to, hey, you know what, I do have influence. How can I recognize this influence and use it to the benefit of not only myself, but ultimately the benefit of others, because that's what it's all about when it comes down to leadership. And I was thinking back, my leadership journey growing up, I always thought of the leader as someone who was up in front, somebody who was in charge. I really didn't find myself wanting to be in that capacity. I really found myself wanting to stay back behind the scenes, on the sidelines, so to speak, just be a team player, I guess you could say. And I found that as I was going through my leadership journey, it's not necessarily about always being in front all the time. In fact, if you think leadership is about being in front and you find yourself wanting to be in front, you're going to be disappointed when it comes to leadership, because leadership is actually a lot of the things that you don't see, a lot of the things you don't get recognized for. But going back to my story, I realized that quickly I began to have influence in people's lives when I got into leadership roles and positions, and I saw the change that could happen in people's lives. I saw the impact that people had when I was speaking into their life or giving them direction in their life and whatnot. And I really took it to heart that, okay, I've got to better myself. I've got to set myself up to learn more, to understand what influence is all about, to understand what leadership is really all about. And so I could take this and I can pour into other people. I can add value to their life. And this is what this is all about today in this podcast. I want to dive into what we're going to call the 5 levels of leadership. And so wherever you find yourself leading in life, whether it's just leading your life or leading teams, you're going to find that this is going to be helpful not only to recognize where you're at currently on the 5 levels, but how to break through and get to that next level. We're going to also uncover what it looks like to take down the myth, like I said, of not being a leader, that you don't have that capacity in your life. One of the greatest things I realized that helped me understand the magnitude of influence was, I think it was John Maxwell in his book, Developing the Leader Within You, where a lot of this stuff is taken from today. He says that the most introverted person will influence over 10,000 people during their lifetime. And a lot of us are not the most introverted person on earth. A lot of us have a lot of influence, more than we realize. And if we're going to influence thousands and thousands of people in our life, we might as well do it on purpose. And that's what I want you to get today. If we're going to influence, let's do it on purpose. If we're going to influence, let's do it on purpose. Let's do it effectively. So some pushback that I get a lot of times when it comes to a conversation with somebody, hey, are you a leader? Do you have influence in your life over other people? I'll get things like, well, you know what? I'm not a born leader, so I can't lead. And I want to just dispel that right now. You know, there are people that are born with certain talents and certain capabilities. And then there are a lot of people, most people, who have to learn how to put those into practice and learn what they're all about and craft those within themselves. And leadership is one of those things. Listen, there are going to be people who are naturally better at speaking or naturally better at organizing or managing, people who are better at motivating or understanding people in certain areas of teams or life, what have you. And this whole idea that if I'm not a natural born leader, that I can't lead, you've got to put that out of your mind. You got to realize that I do have a capacity to lead, just like I have a capacity for anything else in my life. And how am I going to take this leadership ability that I do have, no matter how big or small it is, and capitalize on it and grow it into a greater influence? Some other things that people will say is a title and seniority will automatically make me a leader. And that's a big myth right there. Just because somebody has a title doesn't necessarily mean they're a leader or a good leader at that. Listen, titles really don't mean anything other than they're just something that's given to somebody because it needs to be filled. It needs to be on an org chart or something like that within an organization. And listen, forget about titles, forget about positions. Leadership is so much more than that. They'll often think as well, another myth, that work experience will automatically make me a great leader. Listen, work experience is great, but work experience is not equal leadership experience. The two can go hand in hand, but the two are also very differently. Yes, you have to understand what type of work you're involved in, but leadership development becomes much more than just a position and work experience. And one more myth that people sometimes come up with is they'll say, I'm waiting until I get a position to start developing as a leader. Listen, if you wait to get that position without having learned some leadership skills and development along the way, you're going to find yourself in a very awkward position that will not last very long, unfortunately. So we can't say, I'm just going to wait till I get that position to become a leader. We have to work our craft as a leader much sooner than that, so that when we get into that position, we are primed and ready for that position, and we will thrive in that position. So we find ourselves, again, whether we're leading life at home or in a business, or we work for somebody, we're in school, wherever you find yourself leading in life, we've got to understand what leadership really boils down to. John Maxwell has the greatest definition of leadership that I've ever come across. It's so simple to understand, yet it makes all the sense in the world. He says that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Let me say it again. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. It's in its simplest and purest form that leadership just boils down to one person influencing another person. So the question really isn't, do you consider yourself a leader? But rather, since I do have influence over people in my life and I lead in some capacity with that influence, am I leading on purpose? And am I leading effectively? Here are some insights. These are really good about influence to consider before we dive into how to progress those 5 levels of leadership in our life. Listen, everybody influences somebody. We've already covered that in some form here, that we as an introvert of introverts will still influence thousands of people in our lifetime. So think about where you stand as an introvert or extrovert. It really doesn't matter. It comes down to everyone will influence somebody. Are we doing it on purpose? Something else to consider here, we don't always know who or how much we influence. One example I like to give in this is that oftentimes I will speak in front of people, whether it's a crowd of 20 people in a small setting or a crowd of a few hundred people in a large setting. And I will have anywhere from 3 people or maybe just, maybe at the most like 5 or 6, really, to be honest with you, people that will come up to me afterwards and let them know how it impacted them or how it changed their life or some insights that they got. And if I look at that and I, let's say, had like 100 people that I was speaking in front of and just 5 came up to me, that would be really disappointing, especially me as a perfectionist wanting to just influence everybody in that room to the greatest level I could possibly do. To have just a few people come up to me and let me know how I impacted them, that would be demoralizing. But we really don't know how much we impact and how much influence. And for those other people that did not say anything to us and will never say anything to us, there is a great chance that you will have not only an impact in that moment, but you have planted seeds that will carry on long after that time with them. Something else to consider here as well. The best investment in tomorrow is to develop your influence today. Again, if we're going to influence, we might as well do it on purpose. Are you doing it on purpose? And the best way to do this is to develop the influence that you have. Develop yourself as a leader today, and that will have an incredible impact for you in the days to come here. So if we want to become a better influencer and a better leader, we need to understand the progression of leadership and the stages that we go through as a leader. As we're going out and we are leading our life on purpose to give us the best life, we need to look at these 5 levels of leadership. And again, whether you're at home or find yourself in work or business, it does not matter, because you are leading your life in some capacity. And you're going to find where you're at on these 5 levels here, and then how to progress to the levels above that. So let's talk and break down these 5 levels real quick here. Level 1 is all about position. Listen, you got to have a position if you're going to be a leader. Now, the thing about this in position number, or level number 1 of position, it really is just a position. It could really just be a title. You could have just been given something and really have no idea how to lead. Now, this is the basic fundamental level of leadership, and one that we don't want to stay in very long. Listen, positional leadership is the most shallow of the 5 levels. And here's a few things that we find with positional leaders. Now, think about this and think about where you're at in the levels of leadership. Does this correlate with you? Positional leaders look for security based on title more than talent. This is huge. Positional leaders, they look at their security and where they hold firm based on their title more than their talent. Listen, if you don't have any leadership skills, going back to that thought of once I get to position, I will develop as a leader. No, it comes down to, if you're just a positional leader, you're going to find your security based on what you have, not what you give. Also, positional leaders rely on the leader's influence instead of their own. You're always going to have somebody leading in front of you. And so if you are just in this positional level of leadership, you're going to rely on your leader's influence more than your own. And something else to consider about positional leaders, they can't get people to follow them beyond their defined authority. And this is where the wall hits for most leaders in this position. You've been given a title, you've been given a certain amount of authority, but because it's based solely on position, you're not going to get people to do more than what you're allowed to give them to do. You haven't built enough influence in them. So once we've defined what our position is as a leader, we want to hold that position. Listen, you don't want to let go of that position. You don't want that position to be taken from you. We want to hold that position in a positive way, but then progress to this next level, level 2, which is permission. Now, here's the main difference between level 1 and level 2. If you've been given a leadership position, then you've been given your boss's permission to lead. But if you've earned influence on level 2, then you've acquired your people's permission to lead. Let me break that down again here. If you've been given this position, then you've been given your boss's permission to lead. Somebody has given you a title, somebody's given you the authority to lead. But if you've earned influence on level 2 here, then you have acquired the people that you lead. You've acquired their permission to lead. And this is where it takes off for you. Level 2 comes down to trust and respect that you've earned from those you influence. It comes down to this simple fact. They no longer want to follow you because you have a title or position, or somebody else says that they have to. They follow you because you have a positive influence in their life. And once you have a positive influence, they're going to open their hands up a little bit more for you to have that permission to lead. And we have to understand something here. Respect and trust don't just come overnight. It's something you develop over time. So you don't automatically go from position to permission just like that. It's progressive. It takes time, and we've got to understand that patience is involved in this, and there's development in this. Earning the trust, earning the respect of people to give you the permission to have influence over them is this. So how do you gain permission to lead others? These are 3 simple things you can do to gain permission. Under promise and over deliver. Let me say it again, this is huge. Under promise and over deliver. set yourself up for success. Why would you go in and overpromise knowing that you can't do it, and then you underdeliver? You'll lose the trust and respect so quickly when you do that. So when you first start out, underpromise and then overdeliver, and you're going to earn the trust and respect and influence of people. The second thing you can do here is never go back on your word. Become a person of complete integrity. This is so essential. People want to follow somebody with character. They want to follow somebody with integrity. Never go back on your word. No matter what it costs you, you've got to keep your integrity intact. And lastly, to gain permission to lead others, serve the needs of those you influence. Put them above you. It's a cost being a leader. It doesn't mean you come first anymore. It means that people who are following you, they become first. Serve the needs, add value to them, put them above you. Do these three things, you're going to gain influence for level 2. Moving on to level 3, this is another huge jump here. Level 3 has to do with production. If you've been given the permission or the position, and now you have the permission, it's time to start owning it. It's time to start making things happen. A responsibility of someone in leadership is to produce results. Listen, if you're in a position of leadership and results are not happening, you're not going to hold that position very long. If you have the permission to lead, but you're not taking the people anywhere and things are not getting done, they're going to look to somebody else who's getting things done. So does that person or people that you lead have a better position in life? Have you added value to them or the organization that you're in because of your influence over them? That's a good question to ask, because a key factor to consider, if you aren't producing the results you want, understand the type of leader that you are. And let me clarify this. Be aware that most people naturally gravitate to either the permission or this production level of leadership. And what I mean by that is, if you're permission oriented, you're going to be more about people. If you're production oriented, you're going to be more about results. So if you're not getting what you want in production, maybe you need to, if you're production oriented, need to go look towards being about the people, adding more value to them, not being so result oriented that it pushes over people and undermines people and drives people to insanity, because it's all about result and not about them leveling up in their life and their leadership and their capacity as well. Be aware of it. You're going to gravitate towards permission or production, and you've got to have a good balance within those things to be at level 3 in this production state and get continuous results, which produce momentum, which is huge. Another topic we can get in at a different time. Now, something to consider here, something that very, very key to understand in level 3 is that most leaders camp out at level 3. The jump between level 3 and level 4 is a difference between becoming a good leader and an exceptional leader. Most people camp out because they go, okay, you know what, I've got the position, then I've got the permission, I do have influence over people, which is great, we're getting results done, and they just get into this cycle of, okay, position, permission, production. Position, permission, production. Things are happening. Things are going very well. Boss is happy. I'm getting promoted. I'm getting a raise. The family's doing well. Results are happening. It's great. It's a good thing. And we get stuck in that position because we see the positive feedback coming our way, and we realize this is good. I want more of this. We have to realize that a big jump between level 3 and level 4 will not only add value and add results, but it will multiply those in such a huge, huge way, because level 4 is people development. People development. Your goal as a leader should always be to replace yourself with someone else. And believe me, I know that sounds weird and that sounds counterintuitive to what most people are trying to go after in an organization or business. Replace me. No. I have this position. I have this security in this position. I get paid well for this position. Why would I want to replace myself? This goes against that grain of thinking, like I said, but here's the thing. The best thing you can do as a leader is to develop those around you to take over your position, because remember, you build others up and then you rise up as well. When you build others up, you rise up. When they promote to a new position, you promote to a new position. Replacing yourself means you have empowered those around you to do what only you could do before. And this is where the multiplication effect comes in. This is so huge in getting more results, because now it's not just you doing what only you can do. Now you've empowered. Now you've taken people to a new level in their own life, in their own leadership, and they're at that level that you were at before. Now, not only you are doing things, but now you've got a team of people leading in different capacities and roles and getting things done as well. It's not just 1 + 1, it is 10 times 10 at this point. And this is why it is so hard to break from level 3 to level 4, because people development takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of resource. So here's some questions to ask yourself at level 4. If you find yourself getting near or you're at level 4, here are some questions to help you advance forward in level 4 and develop those around you. Ask yourself this: am I passionate about personal growth? Not only for yourself, but also for those that you lead. Not just about the organization, but them personally. Are you passionate about their growth? Because if you're passionate about their growth and your growth as a leader, it's going to come out and it's going to pour itself into everything that you're developing on your teams and within people. Ask yourself this: does my growth journey have credibility? If you're going to develop people, you got to have credibility within yourself as well. Ask yourself, are people attracted to me because of my growth? If you're going to add value to others, you've got to add value to yourself. In order to help others grow, you yourself have to grow as well. Ask yourself, am I successful in the areas where I want to develop others? If you're going to go teach others, you need to be a master in that area. You need to show some growth in that area. Ask yourself, am I willing to be vulnerable as a role model and coach? You can't be one that just hides behind the veil. If you're going to develop people, like I said before, they've got to trust you and they've got to respect you. And that one of the quickest ways to earn that is to become vulnerable as a role model and coach. And finally, ask yourself, in level 4, do the people I lead develop and succeed? It's a results check at that point. It's going back to the scoreboard at that point. And am I leading in a way that people are developing? And how do you score that? What results do you see? What improvements do you see in other people? Those are some good questions to ask on this level to develop that. Now, you probably are going to camp out whether you want to or not at level 4 for quite a while, because level 5 is the ultimate achievement in leadership. And it's level 5 is pinnacle. And it's pinnacle because you've reached the top and you really can't get much further than that. Level 5 pinnacle means that you're leaving a legacy. Level 5 means you've gotten to a place where you have created something that will outlive and outlast you here on earth. It takes years to develop this. It takes years for this fully to be realized. And being at this pinnacle of leadership means that the influence that you have has trickled down into multiple people on multiple levels for a great amount of time. And not only have the leaders that you produced gotten results, but they have gotten past level 3 into level 4, and you become now a leader of leaders. That's the best way I would define pinnacle, is that you become a leader of leaders. Not only do you lead people, but you lead those who lead others. It takes a long time to get to this position. I don't want to spend too much on that, but level 5, pinnacle. Let's recap real quick these 5 levels of leadership and just think, where am I at? Whether I'm leading my own life right now, whether I'm leading my family, whether I'm leading an organization, team, whatever it may be. Level 1 is all about position. You've got to have a position, but you don't want to stay there very long. Hold that in a positive way, but advance to level 2, which is permission. Now you've got the trust and respect from people. They've given you permission to have influence on their life, which proceeds into level 3, production. Now, because you've got the position, you're holding that in a positive way. You've earned the influence from people. Now you can produce results along the way. And once you get into that, remember, you don't want to camp out there. You don't want to become satisfied with the results that you're getting. You want to move into level 4, which is all about people development. Coming into that, not only adding value in a way that's going to add significance, but it's going to multiply significance because you're multiplying the leaders within your organization, within your family, within your team. It's all about adding value to people, influencing them in the way that they're developing as a leader, which leads to level 5, the pinnacle of leadership. It's leaving a legacy. It's becoming the leader of leaders, and understanding that that takes some time. That takes years and years of practice in leadership development and developing others around you. So think of this as we conclude this time together. Influence is the true beginning of leadership. Don't discount yourself as a leader just because you aren't either comfortable with a title or you don't fully understand it. Just know that it boils down to influence that you have over somebody in your life. And since you have it, you might as well do it on purpose. You might as well be effective in it. Look over these 5 levels, locate where you're at, where you can improve, how you can advance to that next level. And as you evaluate where you're at and where you can increase your influence and your leadership, understand that this will take some time, but understand it is absolutely worth it. Because if you're going to lead your life to live the best life, it takes understanding the influence that you have over other people and doing it on purpose and doing it effectively. I want to thank you for listening to this podcast today on influence and how you can lead your life to live the best life. And if you enjoyed it, if it helped you in any way, I would appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button so you can listen, download, watch these when they come out. We have on the 5th, the 15th, and the 25th on the 5s each month. Tell your friends about it, share it, let's spread the word, and let's lead our life.